Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're keeping with the summer theme and making a simple almond stitch crop top. This no frills top is a cute, casual, and quick make. Speaking of, if you're interested in more quick makes, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of the best modern crochet tutorials and patterns in all sizes, with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 115 grams of yarn. That's 255 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us a TV show that you wish would come back. I really wish for the K9 to 5 show to come back, and if you guys know what show that is, 5 points for you. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making a chain that is in multiples of 8 that starts 1 inch underneath our underarm down to where we like the bottom of this top to be. Since this is a crop top, I'm going to make a chain that's roughly 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters that is going to end right at my underbust, or roughly where an underwire would lay. So I'm going to start by making a chain 16. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started on our first almond stitch row. Start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to start with 1 slip stitch into the first 4 chains. So bring our hook down into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. We're going to yarn over and gently pull through both loops on our hook. Now we want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into, and we need to do a total of 4. So there's 1. Into that next chain, insert with our second. Next chain, insert with our third. Next chain, insert with our fourth. We should all have 4 slip stitches. Then for everyone, we're also going to be doing 4 half double crochets. So start with the yarn over, into that next chain, insert with 1 half double, into that next chain with a second half double, next chain with a third, and next chain with our 4th half double crochet. From here, it is going to be a repeat of our 8 previous stitches. So continue to put 1 slip stitch into the next 4 stitches, then 4 half double crochets until we all have 4 chains left. Now we've made our way down with our first row, we should all have 4 chains left. Now for everyone, the next set of stitches should be half double crochets for everyone. So what we're going to do is put 1 half double crochet into the rest of our stitches, leaving that last one. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3 half double crochets. And into that last chain, we're all going to do an increase of 5. So all that's going to be is just 5 half double crochets into that last chain. So yarn over, into that last chain, and insert with our first half double. Same last chain with our second. Same last chain with our third. Same last chain with our fourth. And same last chain with our 5th half double crochet. Now for this first row, we should all have 4 more stitches than chains that we made. Now from here, we aren't going to do any increases or decreases into any of our even number rows. So what we're all going to do from here is chain 1 and flip. And it's going to start off the same for everyone. We're all going to start with 4 back loop slip stitches, then 4 back loop half doubles, and repeat till the end of the row. So to do our first back loop slip stitch, find that last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from us, then gently yarn over and pull through everything. We still need to do a total of 4 of them, so there's 1, into that next back loop with our second, next back loop with our third, next back loop with our fourth. Then it's going to be 4 back loop half doubles, so yarn over. Into that next stitch's back loop with 1 back loop half double, next stitch with our second, next stitch with our third, next stitch with our 4th back loop half double crochet. From here, continue with 4 back loop slips, 4 back loop half doubles to reach the end of the row. Now our first 2 rows are completed. This is going to be a 4-row repeat, so let's get started on our row 3. Now when it comes to doing our odd number rows, we're now going to do the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like. So, as you guys can tell, the first set of stitches that we have for our next set of stitches is back loop slip stitches. So now from here, we're going to be doing 4 back loop half doubles to start off our row 3. So chain 2 and flip. And we're all going to start with 4 back loop half doubles. So now that first stitch is back loop with 1 back loop half double. Next with our second. Next with our third. Next with our fourth. Then our next set of stitches from our previous row is back loop half doubles. Now it's going to be 4 back loop slip stitches on top of there. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then from here, continue with 4 back loop half doubles, 4 back loop slip stitches till we all have 4 stitches left. We are back and our row 3 is nearly complete. We should all have 4 stitches left. And what we're all going to do from here is 3 back loop half doubles, then another increase of 5 at the end of the row. So here's my first back loop half double, my second, and my third. We should all have 1 stitch left. Into that last stitch, it's going to be an increase of 5 back loop half doubles, so yarn over. Into that last stitch with 1, same last stitch with a second, same last stitch with a third, same last stitch with a fourth, and 1 more with a 5th half double crochet all into that last stitch. Now at the end of every odd number row, we should have 4 more stitches than our previous row. Like I said, to get started on our row 4, we're not going to do any increases or decreases into our even number rows, so simply chain 1, flip our work, and it's going to start with 4 back loop slips, then 4 back loop half doubles, and continue that to reach the end of the row. We are back and our first 4 rows are completed. From here, it is going to be a repeat of our 4 previous rows, all rows within the back loops, until we now have a portion that can reach from mid-underarm all the way over to the side of the base of our neck. Now, a few really quick tips. If our increases are starting to curve backwards a little bit, that's completely fine. It'll all stretch out once when everything is seamed and worn. And also, when we're putting this up to ourselves, we want to make sure that the tail end is still staying 1 inch underneath our underarm, because we don't want the underarm portion to become too tight, because we are going to have an underarm border as well. So go ahead and get this portion completed. I'll meet you guys back right after you complete a repeat of our 4 rows, so along the bottom, and then we can get started on the middle of our neckline together from there. We are back and I've just completed my underarm portion. I have a total of 12 rows. My width is roughly 3 inches or 8 centimeters unstretched. Now we're going to get started on the neckline width. So this part's going to be super simple, no increases and no decreases. So from here, since we all should have ended along the bottom right after a repeat of our row 4, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work. Start with 4 back loop slips, 4 back loop half doubles, and just continue on with those 8 stitches to reach the end of the row. So we made our way all the way up with our first neckline row. Once when that's completed, we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top end of the row. But all we're going to do from here is our same 4-row repeat until we have a portion that can reach from one side of the base of our neck over to the other side. So just to get the following row started with you guys, we're going to chain 2 and flip, since that is an even number row. We're all going to start with 4 back loop half doubles, 4 back loop slip stitches to reach the end of the row. Then just continue to do our 4-row repeat, and I'll meet you guys back right after a repeat of our row 4, so along the bottom, and then we can do our underarm portion together from there. So we are back. We have just completed the width of our neckline portion. I now have a total of 28 rows. Now we're going to get started on the underarm portion. So this width is roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters, and to get started on the first underarm row, we're going to chain 1, flip our work. Then we're going to do 4 back loop slips, 4 back loop half doubles, making our way all the way up, leaving the last 8 stitches. But before we do that, we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that last neckline row so we can match this first one. So we've made our way down with our first underarm row, leaving the last 8 stitches. Now what we're all going to do from here is the next set of stitches that we should have, which should be back loop slip stitches. So we're all going to do 3 back loop slip stitches, then close off the row with a decrease of 5 double crochets. So what we're going to do is into that next stitch, we're going to insert with 1 back loop slip, next stitch with another, next stitch with another. That should leave us with a total of 5 stitches left. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to do a decrease of 5 double crochets in the back loops. We're doing double crochets instead of the usual half double crochets because the double crochet gives us a little bit more reach. So we're going to yarn over into that next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and into that last stitch's back loop, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on our hook. Then from here we're going to yarn over, pull through the first 6 loops. To get 2 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 2. Now this first row is complete. We should have 4 less stitches than our previous row, and our following row isn't going to have any increases or decreases. So what we're going to do is chain 1 and flip, and for everyone start with 4 back loop slips, 4 back loop half doubles to reach the end of the row. Our first 2 rows are completed for our underarm portion. Now what we're going to do from here is basically repeat our 2 previous rows, but we do need to make sure that we're starting them off the right way. So just to get the following row started, we're all going to chain 2, since we all should have ended on slip stitches for our previous row, chain 2, flip our work, 4 back loop halves, 4 back loop slips till we all have 8 stitches left. We are back with our third underarm row. We should all have 8 stitches left, and this decrease is going to be done the same way as our previous decrease. So just to do that together, we're all going to start with 3 back loop slip stitches. That should leave us with 5 stitches, then a decrease of 5 back loop doubles. So yarn over, next back loop, next back loop, next, second to last, and the last, leaving us with 7 loops. Yarn over, pull through the first 6, leaving us with 2 loops, then yarn over, pull through 2. Then the following row won't have any increases or decreases. That'll be the same as our previous even number row. So chain 1, flip our work, 4 back loop slips, 4 back loop halves, making our way all the way down. Our first 4 rows for the decrease portion of our underarm is completed. Now from here, we're going to continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows as our first underarm portion. When we do a chain up a 1 and cut, and I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed the entirety of our front panel. Now I have a total width of roughly 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters that is unstretched, because remember the whole thing will have a decent amount of stretch to it. And once we had one completed, we went ahead and made a second one that was exactly the same. Once we have both of our panels completed, we can now seam up the sides together. So once we have both of our panels completed, we're going to place them on top of each other, making sure that it is flipped wrong side out. Now it will have a front and a back. The front will have these very clear ridges that we have, and the back will kind of look like it has little pockets right here, and that's going to be the back. We want to make sure that the front is faced in on itself. Then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then what we're going to do from here is a single crochet seam. So just to do the first few, find that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet everything together. Again, next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, and single crochet. We're going to continue doing this so we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up 1 and cut, and repeat on the other side. So we are back. We have just completed seaming up our sides. Now we're going to get started on the underarm detail. So how this is going to work is making sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning the seams that we just did are along the inside. Then what we're going to do is insert our hook into the top corner stitch of one of our panels and do a single crochet row. So all it's going to be is 3 single crochets into every side increase or decrease row depending on what side you're working on, and 1 single crochet into the non-increase / decrease row. So let's get the first few started. We're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now our hook should have been worked into our side row that's right next to our stitch marker stitch, not into that stitch marker stitch. Now we should all have one side row right here, so I'm going to find that top loop and insert in through there because that was a non-increase row. Then everyone's next side row should be our increase slash decrease, so we're going to be putting 3 single crochets into there. So finding our top loop, I'm going to insert with 1 into that same top loop with a second, and same top loop with a 3rd single crochet. And we're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down and around. So once when our single crochet row is complete, the next thing we're going to do is insert our hook into that same first corner stitch that we inserted our hook into when we got started on our single crochet row. We're doing that because we want to show the front of the single crochets. And we're going to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for this underarm detail to be. Now I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 5. So now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're going to slip stitch all the way down. So into that chain that we blocked off, the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. We want to make sure that we're still not tugging too tightly after every stitch, and continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. Now that we put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're going to connect it into the base, which was that single crochet row. Start by finding that next available stitch into the base and insert in through there with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base as well, flip our work. That slip stitch still doesn't count as a stitch, and now put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So just to do the first one, find that last stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, insert into that back loop, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. So we are back, and our first 3 rows are completed. Now we're just going to connect it into the base the same way that we just did. So into that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch, flip our work, and repeat. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we're worked into our last single crochet. Then once we have that, do a chain up 1 and cut, and repeat everything we did here on the other side. We are back. We have just completed our back loop slip stitch portion for our underarm detail on both sides. Now what we're going to do from here is our collar. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up, meaning our seams are still along the inside. Then what we're going to do from here is insert our hook into the top corner stitch of our underarm detail and start with working across our panel with a single crochet row. So insert your yarn onto your hook. Start with 1 single crochet into every stitch into the top of our underarm detail and into our side single crochet row as well, and then I'll meet you guys back to work across into our almond stitch detail. So we've just made our way across the top of our underarm detail. Now we're going to work into the top of our almond stitch detail. Now how this is going to work is we're just going to skip 1 side slip stitch row. So we should have a side slip stitch row right here. We're going to be putting 1 single crochet into there, skip that next side slip stitch row, and then 2 single crochets into every side half double. We just want to skip that side slip stitch row so that we aren't cluttering the top of our almond stitch detail. Now as you guys can see, this is a side slip stitch row for me. You can see the ribbing faced up. I'm just going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. Now there is a divot right next to it for me. That is going to be our other side slip stitch row. We're going to skip over that, and finding our next side row, which should be a side half double crochet, we're going to put 2 single crochets into there, 2 single crochets into the next. So into the top of the side half double, there's 1, there's 2. Into the next side half double, there's 1, there's 2. And we're going to repeat this, making our way all the way down. Let's do the next one. This is our next side slip stitch row. You can see it ends with this ribbing right here, so just find that top loop, insert with 1 single, skip over that next divot that we have, then 2 single into that next side half double, another 2 single into the next, and continue doing that, making our way all the way until we reach this top corner stitch. So we've just made our way across the top of one of our panels with our single crochet row. Now from here, we're all going to make a chain that can reach up and over our shoulder and reach the top corner stitch of the other panel. Now when we're doing this portion, we're going to be doing 2 things. One, we're going to be forming our neck hole, so we need to make sure that it can fit around our head. But we're also going to be forming our armhole as well. So when it's completed, we do need to try it on, making sure that the armhole isn't too tight or too loose as well. So I actually went ahead, already measured mine out. I needed roughly 4 inches or 10 centimeters for this side. So I went ahead and made a chain 20. Once we have our chain, we're going to single crochet it in the top corner stitch of the other panel. So I flipped my work over. Into the top corner stitch of my other panel, we're going to insert with a single crochet. Now the single crochet is going to count as our connection and as a stitch. So now that this is connected, we're going to continue on with our same single crochet row, making our way all the way across. Once we reach this corner, we're going to make the same chain that we made on that side. Then I'll meet you back to connect it together. We are back and our first row is complete. Right after I made my chain, I did slip stitch it into that chain that we made when we got started on this row. Then all we're going to do from here is chain 1, and working in the same direction as our previous row, put 1 single crochet into every stitch and chain. Then I'll meet you back at the end so we can get started on the length of our collar. And lastly, the single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So when it's completed, try your piece on, making sure that everything still fits nicely. If it's a little bit too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Alright, so our single crochet row is complete. Now we're going to get started on the collar. Now the collar is actually going to be done exactly the same way as the underarm portion, so I'll just talk you guys through it. Making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Right after we have slip stitched into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the height that we'd like for the collar to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, just like my underarm portion. Yours can be more or less if you want, so I'm going to make a chain 5. Then from there, I'm just going to do back loop slip stitch rows, make my way all the way around. When I don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam it together. So we are back. We made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. Now what we're going to do from here is seam it together, and this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam. So first things first, let's make sure the work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, pull through everything, and now we're going to find that first available stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Find that next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Again, into that next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop, next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and continue doing this till we don't have any more stitches left, then cut. So now that our collar is all seamed up, we're going to get started on the bottom band. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Insert our hook into any one of the side rows we have along the bottom of our piece, and we're going to do a single crochet row. Now this single crochet row is going to be done pretty much the same way that we single crocheted across the top of our panels. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. It's going to be 1 single crochet into 1 side slip stitch row. Skip the next, and then 2 single crochets into the 2 side half double crochet rows, making our way all the way around. Now a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch as well. So once it's completed, try your piece on, making sure that it still fits. If it's too tight, redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip. So our single crochet row is complete. Now what we're going to do from here is our bottom band, and the bottom band is going to be done exactly the same way as our neckline. So what we're going to do, right after we slip stitch into that chain space, is make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I'd like for my bottom band to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. Then just do the same back loop slip stitch rows, making our way all the way around with no increases and no decreases. Then I'll meet you guys back when we don't have any more stitches left, so we can seam it together. So we are back. We have made our way all the way around with our bottom band, and now we're going to seam it together, but this seam is actually going to be done exactly the same way as our collar. So just to talk you guys through it, make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to do our outside loop slip stitch seam, the same one that we did for the collar till we don't have any more stitches left. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And once we have that completed, we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. There you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.